Hi, everyone. I'm firing my producer for the Canes Corner podcast. Yeah, that's me. Tough to play the highlights when they're not loaded into the system. Welcome to the Canes Corner podcast. I am Adam Gold. Not a great finish for the Hurricanes. Pretty good game. Not a great game. Not a great offensive game for Carolina. But I thought they did enough good things to win the game, at least get to overtime and get a point. Didn't work out that way. You hate that you lose with under a minute to go, but there are some reasons, and we will go through them. So I appreciate your time. Again, we're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hannon and his crew do a great job. You should check them out for all of your exterior home improvement needs. A handful of things I want to get to. Obviously, just the emotions of losing a game like this, I think we got to start with. How did it happen? All of that. But the big picture of the game is really that Carolina didn't get off to a great start. Actually, kind of weird because I actually thought they were pretty good early in the first period. But from the time that Tampa got their first power play through the end of the first, where they got their goal with about a little less than 3.5 minutes to go, Tampa won that part of the period decisively. I thought it was a pretty even game. Carolina had, I thought, some pretty good moments in the first 10 minutes of the game. But the second part of the first period was so dominated by Tampa that I think it made us forget the first 10 minutes. But I'm just gonna. I don't want to jump around here. I do want to start with the end because Pyotr Kochetkov played a great, elite first 59 minutes. And that's the problem. That is the problem of the game, is that it's not him taking a breath. It's Kochetkov, who has tendencies to get a little jumpy, spent the entire first 59 minutes not being that. And on the very last play for him, that's what happened. Because my initial read on it was, oh man, that's unfortunate. Tough one for Kochetkov, blah, blah, blah. And then I went and I looked at the replay and I went, what's he doing? He sort of lunged, lost his balance, went down. Look, elite play by Brayden Point. It's an elite gather of the puck, a pass from Kucherov on a reload. You really would have liked to have seen Andrei Svechnikov get the puck down the ice further. Maybe that line needed to get off. I don't know. But it was really a reload from the Point Kucherov Guentzel line. I think that's the line. Or maybe it's Hagel. I don't know who's on the third person on that line. And Staal's in front. He's marking Point. Kucherov gets the puck to Point. Again, who spins away from Staal and really just kind of desperation flips it. But Kochetkov just kind of jumped at the play rather than just getting over, staying square, and dealing with it, maybe even being more upright. He lunged. First time all game, he got antsy. Does it erase 59 minutes of spectacular play? Because he was great. I mean, I thought for 59 minutes he was better than the other guy, which Bobrovsky, he at least matched him, won the game. Shesterkin, he was better than Shesterkin, won the game. Sorokin, better than Sorokin, won the game. It's a pretty good run for Kochetkov against elite Russian goaltenders. And then the one little mistake at the end. Does it ruin the game? No. But because of that, you don't get anything out of it. You can lose the game in overtime. You can lose the game in a shootout. Skate out of Tampa with a point. When the Lightning had lost 4 straight and you knew they were going to play a solid defensive game, and they did. That's the unfortunate part about it, because I thought the team battled and fought enough to get something out of the game, and then you get nothing. So that's a tough one. To me, that's the tough one, is that you really fought. And he would have been the first star of the game had Carolina got it to overtime. I don't even care who wins the overtime, unless Staal or Svechnikov had won the game with an overtime goal. Svech might have. Staal probably not. Unless that had happened, Kochetkov's going to be the game's first star. It's tough to make you the game's first star on the third goal. And it's not a bad goal, but if he plays it just more soundly, less jumpy, probably makes the save, especially the way he was playing in the night. He was great. Loved everything about Kochetkov's game tonight. Did. He had one little confusing play with the puck where he left it, and then I guess there was miscommunication. I don't remember the defenseman on the play. I think they thought maybe he was going to move it, and he didn't, and ended up getting caught and almost gave up a cheap goal when Kucherov threw it out in front, but it didn't carry him in. But that's the unfortunate part about tonight, is that as good as Kochetkov was, he kind of let him down late. Nobody's going to talk about it that way because he was so good for 59 minutes. And he really was. He was great. So a lot of good to take out of it, but finishing the job, it's got to happen. It's got to happen, because you lose a playoff game like that and your season ends. So, all right. So that's the big picture in the game for me. And right at the end is the disappointing part. I thought for 2 periods, the same thing kind of happened for me. And Carolina trailed 2-1 after 2. And that they were good early, weren't as good in the first period as they were in the second period. I thought in the second period they were better early. Really, for most of the second period, they were better. But they really did get, I thought, dominated in the latter stages. Last 6 or so minutes of the first period, maybe even a little bit more. Maybe that was 8 or so minutes of the first period. And then even though Tampa tied it on a power play goal about middle of the second, I thought Carolina just jumped right back to being good. But then again, the last, from the media timeout to the end of the period, I thought they were lucky to not give up another goal or 2. Again, Kochetkov was great. And we get through 40 minutes, it's a one-shot hockey game, and this is why, if your goaltender can just give you a chance, and for the rest of this conversation, we might ignore the fact that Carolina got nothing out of this. And that's what Kochetkov did, kept him in it. Because while Carolina had the puck as much, I'll have to check, maybe even a little bit more than Tampa, Tampa did more with it. Tampa was more dangerous, far more scoring chances. Again, I can only remember 1 or 2 really good, challenging saves that Vasilevsky had to make. Necas obviously had a great opportunity to score. Looked like he was a little nervous on that one. Robinson had one early that he basically hit Vasilevsky in the glove. The Canes just didn't get tons of great scoring opportunities. I thought it was kind of disappointing coming on the heels of the game against Pittsburgh. Aho, Jarvis, and Roslovic were just no good as a line for most of the night. It changed, though, in the third period. How many of you noticed? Jackson Blake. I'll be surprised if Rod Brindamore doesn't start Blake with Aho and Jarvis on Thursday against Toronto. Blake has been playing really well. He's not getting rewarded very often, but he has been very, very, he's been a problem. He's been a growing concern for other teams. Comes away with the puck a lot, gets himself in a good scoring positions a lot. He's a tough little kid. He's not strong enough yet to have a serious impact consistently night in and night out in the NHL, but that'll come. But he is dangerous. And I thought Roslovic struggled tonight. The whole line wasn't good, but I thought Jack was a particular no-show, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. Love to see it. Love to see Jackson Blake get a chance to play with Aho and Jarvis. Maybe he just gets a few shifts here and there, but would love to see it. Anyway, I like Jackson Blake tonight. I loved Jaska. We didn't see a ton of that line, but I thought they made things happen when they were on the ice. A lot of that was Jaska as well, but Jackson Blake to me was their best player. And I thought it was a really good night for Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I thought he was the best player on that line tonight. I just thought he won 6 out of his 7 faceoffs. That's great. But I just thought he was, again, an impactful player that even when you don't get on the score sheet, he was noticeable to me all night in a good way. So I think there are some good things to take out of the game. I really do. You hate the end. You hate getting nothing out of it. But I love the response. I love the third period. Carolina was clearly the better team in the third period. But again, this is what, and I've said this before about Tampa, and I'm amazed that Carolina still got 2 goals out of the game based on what we know about the Lightning. There is no team in the NHL, no team at all, that can shut it down better than the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, is that about Vasilevsky? Is it about Hedman, McDonough, Chernak? Perbix is good. They've got Dylan Radish played a good game tonight. They have a great blue line. So, but no team in the NHL, I think, shuts it down better than the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Carolina still got the goal, right? Still got the goal to draw them even. And you thought, man, if you could just survive the last minute and a half. And they couldn't. They couldn't. But second period was similar to the first, and the last from the media timeout on, man, Carolina just got hemmed in. Kochetkov made a whole bunch of saves. Just want to quickly go through the goals. The Tampa goals, because to me, I think we're going to learn something on all 3. I thought Dmitry Orlov thought that possession was changing and Carolina was exiting the defensive end, and that was not what was happening. And he left Brandon Hagel in front of the net. And then for some reason, never really attempted to get back. I don't know. Seth Jarvis was in the vicinity, and I think Jarvis kind of thought Orlov was coming back. And then Jarvis didn't do much either. And I think that those guys are smart enough to know that somebody's got to do something. And yes, at the beginning of that play, there was a lot of whacking at the puck with sticks rather than like knock somebody on their ass. Didn't see that. So, I mean, is somebody to blame on that goal? Yeah, probably a combination of Orlov and Jarvis, but there's an unfortunate, it happened, 1-0. Kochetkov was great throughout the second. Tampa's second goal with, I forget who was in the penalty box. I guess it was the Burns hook. Yeah, the Burns hook on Point, which legitimate penalty, I thought. The second penalty was not legitimate. The first hold on Chatfield was a penalty. The second, I forget who the second penalty was on, but yeah, there wasn't a trip there. It was not a good call. Anyway, Carolina only got 1 power play in the game. Didn't do much with it. It was a little bit better than we've seen before, but they are now I believe 0 for their last 14 with the man advantage. I've been saying this for weeks, not weeks. We haven't seen it for weeks. I've been saying this for games. I don't really like Ty Smith. I actually thought Ty Smith wasn't bad tonight. And I am no Ty Smith fan, but I just think he is not making any impact at all. None on the power play. And I just as soon try somebody else in that spot. But I'm also a believer that for the most part, your power play success is determined by how good your forwards are. And I think that's the way Rod's looking at it. It's more the forwards than it is Ty Smith, who is in for Shane Gostisbehere. But I'd be happy with seeing somebody else run that power play. But again, I'm not necessarily blaming Ty Smith because I think the forwards haven't been good enough on the power play now for the better part of the last, 4 games, 5 games? I think it's 5 games now, whatever it is. Since the Ty Smith power play goal in Columbus on his first attempt at running the power play. They've been fairly bad since then. But the second goal for Tampa, the Nick Paul goal, I mean, that's just a bad break because I thought it was a pretty good penalty kill for the better part of 2 minutes. And then with 1 second left, I forget who took the shot, but it caroms off of Scott Walker, who was to the left side of the goal. It caroms off of Walker across the front of the goal mouth, bounces over to Nick Paul to the side of the goal to the right, and he just sweeps it in. I mean, that's a bad break. It's also breaks that Carolina hasn't been getting lately. It's breaks that Carolina got in the beginning of the year, but that they're not getting right now. So a lot of these issues are being exacerbated by the fact that there hasn't been a ton of puck luck. Although in this game, you could argue that Andrei Svechnikov's goal was entirely about puck luck. Because it wasn't Vasilevsky ain't going to give up that goal again this season. Yeah, I know it was deflected right off the shot, but it wasn't moving fast enough. I mean, did it change direction slightly? Yeah, but it didn't change direction enough, and it wasn't moving fast enough. Vasilevsky has to make that save. When it went in, as I tweeted, I am aghast that puck went in. But it went in. But that line got rewarded for being good. That line got rewarded in the second period for being good. And that line got rewarded again in the third period for doing what they're supposed to do. They keep pucks in, they hound pucks, they make it hard for you physically. Again, I think when we see Andrei Svechnikov playing this way, it's a good sign. So it's my second really good sign of the game was the way Andrei competed physically. And I think playing with Staal and Martinook is perfect for Andrei. I don't know if Andrei feels that way. Not sure he agrees, but I think it's a great way to get him going, to get him playing north-south, and get some of the, some of the fancy out of his game. But I like that line was, it was probably Carolina's best line tonight. Again, they were on the ice for the third goal, so a couple of points off, but they also generated the most Carolina scoring chances. Now, they gave up some, but they generated scoring chances. And, I mean, Carolina didn't do a ton of that across the board tonight. They did, however, when Blake joined Aho and Jarvis. So more of that, maybe. But I thought the Svech, Staal, Martinook line was very good. But that third goal, Pyotr, just needed to get us to the finish line, and take chances in overtime and potentially a shootout. But for the first 59 minutes, it's definitely something to build on. So I'm going to try to forget the last minute or that moment within the last minute. But over the first 59 minutes, there was a lot of really good from number 52 tonight. Big picture, a couple of quick thoughts about the Canes. Because nothing really changes for me. I like Juha Jaska a lot. And we're not carrying an extra defenseman right now. So even when Will Carrier is back, I wouldn't hate if Jaska stuck around and maybe just gave Carolina a different look here and there. I've liked his game. I think he provides a lot. I think he knows how to play. I don't know if there's a great comp here, but it's going to sound kind of weird because I'm comparing him to another Finnish player, but there are some similarities between Jaska and one-time Hurricane Eetu Luostarinen. Luostarinen with the Canes was part of the Vincent Trocheck trade with Florida. And Luostarinen has turned into an excellent, middle six, bottom six winger. Excellent player. I love him. I don't think Jaska is quite as tall. I think Luostarinen might be 6'3". But you could tell that there was some ability there when he was here initially. I did. I liked him. And I think there's a little bit of that in Jaska's game. Jaska can score. He had 15 points for the Wolves. If you go back and you look at his career in the Finnish league, he didn't do a ton of scoring. He certainly scored. But if you look at his playoff scoring, he scored more in the postseason in Finland. So I think there is a useful piece there going forward for Carolina. He's certainly a good depth piece. And maybe he goes back to the minor leagues and continues to play there and helps that team win. The Chicago Wolves have been playing well. But should be pretty, certainly something worth thinking about. And here's the other thing I'm thinking about. Because, again, I don't know how long we're going to be without Shane Gostisbehere. But I am no fan of Ty Smith, and I say that knowing that Ty Smith played a good game tonight. I thought he was good tonight. Scott Morrow just had his second hat trick in I don't know how many games, but he's up to 9 goals now. I will be curious to see, especially if the power play continues to screw up. Not that Morrow is going to get power play time. I don't even know why I mentioned that, but I'll be interested to see if they decide to maybe try a different player on the blue line. We haven't seen Riley Stillman. He's been a healthy extra for the Hurricanes for a while. Now he's back playing with Chicago. I'd be curious to see if they decided to give him a spin, but it depends on how long Gostisbehere is going to be out. If it's a lengthy absence and he started to skate, so maybe it's not, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Scott Morrow make an appearance here on the NHL roster. But it all depends on when they expect Gostisbehere back. It's been posed to me that Smith is just a stopgap, just a Band-Aid for the blue line. But again, I'm just being consistent with my opinion of him. He was okay tonight. He was not the reason they lost the game. Certainly a mistake on the first goal by Orlov, maybe Jarvis. The mistake on the last goal, Staal did lose point, but Kochetkov, only bad play of the night was getting jumpy and just kind of losing his bearings on that goal and making it easier on point. Carolina almost won a game that they didn't generate a ton of scoring chances. But, man, they were good defensively in the third period until they weren't. And that's going to do it. This was one of those games that, again, I thought Tampa created more, but I don't think they were necessarily better, except in those pockets at the end of the first and at the end of the second. But that'll do it. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanner's crew. They do a great job. Svech was good. Staal, Martinook, really good. Blake with Aho and Jarvis, good. Kochetkov for the first 59 minutes, great. Let's not talk about the last minute. So until Thursday against Toronto, Friday, Vancouver, Sunday, Anaheim, in the Eric Staal game, I am Adam, and we will see you next time on the Canes Corner podcast. Good night.